Because it was the type of show that it was, where I was literally dealing with real crime and real people, and what we needed to do was go out and, where possible, talk to victims' families, talk to police officers, obviously. You know, crimes were sort of reenacted to a point, and you kind of did get quite involved with it. There was one in particular, it was a murder, gosh, I can't remember her name, it was in Christchurch, and I went to the house where it happened and to her gravesite and various other spots, and I talked to her, it was her boyfriend at the time. I think it's still an unsolved murder, I'm not 100% sure. And I'll never forget that one, just the feeling of being in that house when that happened and knowing exactly how it happened, and all of those stories sort of seem to impact me each time. You know, and again, you just sort of you're privy to information that you just never normally would be, so can't help but be affected on a show like that. You know, at the same time though, that I think in the time that it was on air, you know, the show solved over 200 crimes, but you know, with the help of the public, which is cool. You know, there was a purpose. I started work on 5:30 with Jude as Jude's sort of sidekick, and yeah, you know, that was lovely. That was very me, and I guess when I look at what I'm doing now, which is Good Morning, it's that whole lifestyle sort of stuff I do really like. It's sort of people relatable, that sort of stuff. And that was a full-time gig. I was a field reporter, so whereas Jude was she used to do the links from in the house, in the Jude house, and I used to go out and about with the crews and do bits and pieces. And we travelled a bit. In fact, I was just talking to a cameraman today about a trip we did to Rarotonga, and I'll never forget it because the poor guy got so overcome by heat that he passed out as he was filming a shot. Then I did quite a few little trips overseas and roundabout and around the country, and it was a happy, lovely show that led into the news. In fact, it did initially, and then they changed it, didn't they, to 5 o'clock with Jude for a year or so. Yeah, good memories. I think we only did one season of that. It was Jim Hickey, Mark Leishman and me, and it was a car show, Jim's mad car show. It was made by Jim's company. I didn't know anything about cars at all, faked a lot of it. And basically we would everything to do with cars. So we would test drive cars, we'd get given cars to take home for a weekend or a week, which my husband loved. And he would test drive it and then I'd talk about it. And we'd go to car shows and car fairs, and it didn't matter what it was to do with cars, we kind of covered it. And they're just such great guys. I've worked with one recently in radio, Mark Leishman, and I see Jim around work still, divine man. It was just a nice little lifestyle show that ticked the box if that was your thing. And, you know, I was probably just the token blonde again on it, given that I didn't know much about it. But I got to know a lot. I mean, I learned a lot on it, and I drove some nice cars. I fronted Target for 7 seasons, I think, around about that, quite a few. Prior to that, it had been around for maybe as long again, I don't know, at least 5 years prior to that. It had been around for a long time. And so that was me and Brooke Howard-Smith. And my sort of role on it was the hidden camera stuff, which is the dodgy buggers sniffing undies and things. It was a good day in the office when we caught that. And Brooke did the kind of out and about consumery stuff. Yeah, so that was a really good job. I was doing Target sort of while I had young children, and it wasn't a full-time job. It was perfectly perfect. It was literally sometimes only a day a week, sometimes a little bit more, but it was very, you know, child-friendly in that respect. So it was so good. I think people thought that we had an unlimited budget, that we could get all sorts of people through and only pick the worst ones or the best ones to show, but that wasn't the case at all. We had a very tight budget, so we showed basically what we filmed, and if we got lucky, which was to say that somebody was dodgy, then, you know, that's what we had. But we showed everything that we filmed, and if they were great, then we showed that too, and that was wonderful. We had these amazing, I think they were like tilers outside, laying a pathway, and they were fantastic. And it was brilliant to be able to, give them a 10 out of 10 and talk about that. I think that's almost just as interesting sometimes. Yeah, see people do their job really well. But there were some doozies, dodgy buggers. And there was a side of me, and to be honest, toward the end, there was part of me that had probably done my time because I was feeling a little uncomfortable with, you know, with people's livelihoods and businesses, and it was the whole way through, and you sort of kind of block that out for some. But because at the same time you think, gosh, yeah, but if you weren't doing anything dodgy, you'd have nothing to worry about, and you'd just be getting some really good publicity. So, yeah. I first filled in on Good Morning when my daughter Charlotte, who's now 12, was 3 months old. I remember getting a call from Irene Gardner at TVNZ, and she said, "Oh, Mary Lambie's pregnant, going on. She's pregnant. Once she goes on maternity leave, would you, you know, would you consider it?" And you know, that time I didn't even know which way was up. The screaming child who'd screamed for the last 3 months. I had no sleep, and at that point they used to have that, that one, you know, that conversation thing that Mary used to do. She'd talk back. It was like a live talk back thing. And I thought, oh my God, I don't even know what my name is. How can I interact with people? But anyway, I said yes, and rolled up there and ended up job sharing, actually, which was lovely, while Mary was on maternity leave with the beautiful, the wonderful Kerry Smith, who's no longer with us. And she did 3 days, I did 2 days, and it was great. So I did I don't know, 6 months or so, however long Mary took off. So that gave me a taste of it, and I certainly knew after that was what I wanted to do. I'd also been filling in on breakfast, sort of in the Paul Henry days, and so I knew I loved that kind of format, and I loved the live aspect of stuff. So yeah, and then I was offered the Good Morning job in 2000 and the beginning of 2012 when it moved from Wellington up to Auckland, and I did that for a year with Rod Cheeseman in the 3-hour format as it used to be, and I felt so lucky to have that job, very blessed, and I loved it. It was everything I wanted to do, and I had a rocking good year. In that first year, it was one. I love live, and I did 4 or 5 years of radio as well, and I think that's what I'm sort of drawn to. Yeah. So anyway, and then at the end of 2012, they shuffled things around a bit and changed Good Morning. And last year, it was an hour, and it was just me and all the guests and what have you. It was a bit of a, it was hard to get used to initially because I didn't have that banter. I didn't have my mate there. But you know, it becomes the new normal, as it did fairly quickly, and now it's an hour and it's done by 10. So my work-life balance in that first year was non-existent. I basically felt like I just worked, whereas last year a lot more child-friendly, and I'm around in the afternoons to go and do stuff with them, and so it was a great year last year, and more of the same this. There's a few that absolutely stand out. One of them would be Miriam Margolyes, who I don't know if you know about. Just one of my favourite people in the entire world. And we became sort of quite friendly afterwards and kept in touch. She's truly just a magnificent woman, the funniest woman, if you haven't seen her on Graham Norton. Oh, brilliant. So she would be a great interview. Worst interview, cranberries. Oh my God, blood out of stone. Terrible. It was in our first couple of weeks on air, I think. Oh God, just Dolores, I think her name is. Just having a bad day, didn't want to talk. But there was the whole band, so we kind of got there in the end. But it was one of those interviews that went right up to midday, so no matter what, I couldn't get out. We had to sit there for the full 9 minutes, and we were just about down to what colour are your undies by the end of it, because I've run out of everything. I was getting nothing. So they stand out for various reasons. I always have a really good time at Comedy Festival time with the touring comedians, and we try where possible to get them to stick around for the show and sort of co-host, especially now I'm on my own. Stephen K. Amos is a favourite, love him. Brilliantly funny. Oh, there's so many of them that are. I had a moment with last year. It was before all the really kind of dodgy stuff came out with who's the guy off Corro Street, you know?
William Roach.
Yeah, William Roach. My goodness, I cut the tomato. He was in the kitchen with us and with me, and I cut the tomatoes in a different way to how he thought. And as a joke, he suggested he might slap my bottom, which then made it to the papers in the UK. Yeah, wow, they just jumped on it. Shane Cortez's character Mac was needing to flog some sex pills on the local morning show, is how the script went. And so they asked me if I would obviously just play myself. And I didn't think I'd get into too many problems with that. I'm not an actor at all, like zero acting ability. And I didn't really need to have any because I was just interviewing him like I kind of almost always would. There was a couple of bits that I did have to sort of act. It was cool. They came to us in the first instance, and we did the interview with Shane on the couch, and we just shot it a number of times and what have you. That was great. And then I went out to the set, and we filmed just a little bit, like in their makeup room, pre-interview. It was fabulous. It was it was a really good, and it's one of my favourite shows. So gutted it's no longer with us. So I jumped at that. I'd done another little bit last year on Girl versus Boy, is it? Girl versus Boy, I think. It's another little local thing. And again, just playing myself. So that's probably the first and last times I ever will.